Fathering is not something that perfect men do, but something that perfects the man. Welcome to the Athletic Dad Podcast. I am your host, CT. And before we get into this thing, if you feel like you've gotten any value from this podcast or podcasts in the past, please feel free to send it to another father who might need a little bit of motivation to get themselves moving, to get themselves training, to get themselves eating right, to get themselves athletic. We talk about all of that, fitness and fatherhood, on these episodes. So if you feel like you have anybody who can learn a little something or needs to hear some of the stuff we're saying, please send it to them. We're hoping to help a lot of dads moving forward with this podcast. We're just looking to give back. We're just looking to help anybody we can and anybody who's willing to listen. So if you know somebody who can benefit from this, please send this to them. Like, subscribe, do all the things. I so much appreciate that. But without further ado, let's get into it. Today, a couple things on my mind, a couple things on my heart, a few things I want to talk about. First of all, I'm going to go over the 7 things that I think every dad should do. These are what I'm referring to as my fatherly non-negotiables. And this, I'm sure, will fluctuate a little bit. I'll add some things. I'll take some things. I'll sharpen some things up. But at first thought, at first meditation, these are the 7 things I think everybody should be doing. And then after that, we're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about why you're probably not doing it right, why you are constantly looking for new diets, looking for new things to help yourself burn weight, looking for new exercises that maybe make you sweat more to where you burn more calories and you're just trying to get fit. You're trying to get athletic. We're going to talk a little bit about diet, and I want you to be able to walk away with a couple really solid ideas and really good principles when it comes to your nutrition that you can move forward with and ultimately always go back to when you are struggling or when you need to make a decision between 2 separate things. Whether you're in a state where you think I should be eating more, I should be eating less, or I'm eating too much, I'm overindulging. What options can I have? What should I choose? What fits my macros? I'm going to kind of talk through all of that as clear and concise as I can to make it super simple. And a lot of it is, I say a lot of it, I mean, this is, I guess, me just talking to a microphone and recording it. So it is all of my experience. It's what I do. It's what I have been doing as far as nutrition goes over the last 20 plus years or so. All of these principles and my main concepts have all pretty much stayed the same. So we'll talk about that. First of all, so the 7 things I think every father should be doing. And I'm going to name them, and then I will come back and go into depth a little bit about each of them. But the 7 things: you should be doing compound movements in the gym. Every father should be doing compound movements in the gym. You should be running or sprinting. Sprinting is my preferred method. Running is great. Running just enough to get your body up to the point where you can sprint is the best case scenario. Everybody should be jumping. These can be intensive. They can be extensive. They can be low jumps. They can be high jumps. There's plenty of things we can go through, but everybody should be jumping. You should be eating like you care about yourself. I think that's very important. Eat like you care about yourself. I may be putting it in a different way, but you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. You should be learning new skills, always trying to level up, always trying to learn something new, whether it's big or small. You should always be working on something. You need to be spending quality time with your best friend. You need to be spending time with your wife or significant other. And finally, number 7, the thing that I think all dads need to make sure they do is they need to constantly remind themselves why they're doing it, why they're doing everything they're doing. So first of all, compound movements. These are the movements where you train the most amount of muscle groups through the furthest ranges of motion and can be progressively overloaded for a very long time. These are going to be your mostly barbell movements. They can be done with dumbbells, they can be done with kettlebells, but barbells are the best way to check that third box that we talked about, being able to progressively overload the movements for a long time. This is good, hard strength training. This is power training. This is speed training. This is training for longevity. This is training for athleticism. This is training for aesthetics. Compound movements check so many boxes. And once you figure out the requisite skill involved to be able to complete the exercises properly, then they can be incredibly fun to overload and challenge and move and train consistently. They're going to be the best possible option for you, no matter your goals in the gym. You see how athletic dads train. We keep reps between 1s and 5s for these compound movements. Try to stay powerful, try to stay fast, try to stay efficient. try to stay strong. You have aesthetic bros who do these same movements for anywhere between 20 and 40 reps. Guys who actually care about power and strength. And also physique will keep those lower rep, heavier sets in their exercise routine as well. All different athletes use them. Football, basketball, gymnastics, baseball. They could be progressed and regressed for anybody in all ages from 8 to 108. These movements are the best thing for you that you can be doing in the gym, and you have to be doing these things consistently. The more you as a father train your squat pattern, your ability to be able to stand up and squat down to full range of motion and then stand back up under load will make doing many, many things that you do on a daily basis as a father much easier. Sitting down to pick something up like your child up off the ground. Your knees and your ankles will be much stronger. Your lower back will be much stronger from these movements. It's going to make everything you do on a daily basis that much easier. Then you add things like the deadlift, the bench press, the overhead press. All of these things are as functional as you can possibly get. These, again, are all the movements we do on a daily basis. So if we do it in the gym and we train it harder and we train it under more load, then that means every time we do it in real life, it's going to be that much easier. Compound movements are an absolute cheat code, and they should be in every single human being's programming. You should be running. You should be sprinting. I've talked about on previous episodes how sprinting is the main pillar of athleticism in my mind. If you are constantly sprinting, you are going to be able to express athleticism in many different ways, in many different planes of motion, in many different movement patterns. You can get a ton of benefits out of sprinting, even if you're not an incredible sprinter. The amount of stress applied to the body is specific based on the individual's skill level and the amount of force that they can produce. But as long as you have max intent when you're sprinting, you're going to get all the incredible benefits out of it, even if you are not very talented at sprinting and not even moving very fast. That is then after repeating those slower sprints over and over and over again, eventually you get better at the skill to then get better at the expression of sprinting. And then we can really get all the goods out of it. But everybody should be sprinting. Jumping, very similar. Jumping, you're going to build strength and stability through the tissues and tendons of your lower limbs, which are amazing. Aesthetically, if you jump a lot, your calves will look better and different. Your quads, your hamstrings will look different. I mean, you'll get a pretty good amount of muscle in the lower legs that are muscles that look pretty impressive. You're also going to build the capability in which to jump, which is just as important as sprinting and running. Jumping is obviously very important when it comes to athletic expression as well. But these first three are pretty obvious. They're things that most people in the field want to talk about is compound movement, sprinting, and jumping. All of that makes sense, and all of that obviously comes from our athletic backgrounds as well. As dads who have played high school or college or even professional sports, we have trained like that, at least we hopefully should have trained like that in the past, and we know that that is something that we should be doing as we are getting older. And if we don't, we're in the right spot to hear that information. But that is absolutely things we should be doing, and that information you can find anywhere, and I talk about that a ton on social media. But the other ones that I really want to talk about, one of those is you need to be challenging yourself to learn a new skill. If you are familiar with any of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, then I imagine you're pretty impressed with what he's talking about. And I've audiobooked all, I believe, 3 of his books, or just 3 of his books, and all of them are so impressive. I remember a couple years ago listening to one of those books, walking my dog with my headphones on. I remember where I was at in the neighborhood. I remember it so vividly when I heard this line, but the only thing I don't remember as I go to say it is the actual percentage or the actual age. But I remember the idea of the line in the Dispenza book where he said, by the time you are 30 years old, 95% of what you do is habitual. 95% of what you do during the day is habitual. So 5% of what we are doing, we are basically in control of. We have the ability to change 5% of our day. And I'd imagine a big percentage of that 5%, of that small percent, are things that just come with the changes in the day-to-day, the weekend from the week, the schedule at work, the schedule at school. But I remember when I heard that, it hit me really hard that I didn't want to be one of those individuals who just went through their day, habit after habit after habit. That, I imagine, is where you hear people say things like, I woke up and I was 75, or, oh, time flies. I I feel like I was just 20 years younger. When I hear those things, a lot of times I think about maybe it's just the habits that we are doing that every day feels like another. I mean, we've probably all been there, gone to work on a Monday, and then all of a sudden it's Thursday, and it's like, dang, this week went so fast. We're probably doing all the same stuff that we're used to doing, and we're in autopilot. So I want to be somebody who goes against that number. I want to be somebody who lives their life maybe 50-50. 50% habits, really good, strong habits, principles, strong beliefs. And then the other 50%, you're just challenging yourself to try new things. Obviously, these numbers I'm just making up these numbers. Obviously, we have to go to work. Obviously, we have to do a lot of similar things. But I just mean as far as when it comes down to decision making, I want to be somebody who challenges myself and tries new things. And there's some Huberman science behind that too, right? Like rewiring the neuroreceptors and all of that stuff. But I think it's so important. I also think it's so important for our kids to see us struggle at doing something and then to continue to do the thing until we overcome that task. I think that is so important for our children to see. They're going through it their entire childhood, trying to learn things, being really bad at them the first, second, third, fourth, 50th time they do it. And what do we say? We as parents say, oh, keep going, keep trying, keep getting better. I recognize you're getting better. How much more powerful is that coming from somebody who actually challenges themselves to learn new skills? They can watch you, your son and daughter can watch you go through the struggle and learn the new skill. And when you become the individual who then says, hey, keep going, you'll get better at that. I remember when I learned to juggle, it took me 3 weeks. You're 2 weeks in and you're way better than I am. Or it's something that can be inspiring to them. Maybe they play sports and you're interested in them getting into music, but you don't have a music instrument you play. You can take those guitar lessons. You can take those drum lessons. They can see you doing those things. They can see you fail. They can be, if it were guitar or drums, annoyed by you banging on the drums and playing the wrong chords on the guitar for a long time. But eventually you're going to learn and you're going to figure it out and you are going to be better because of that. And that will then make you a better father to be able to pass that information along to them and they can see it in real time. That's so important. And then you don't want to be the people who look back and say, dang, I've been doing the same thing for 40 years. I've been doing the same thing for 50 years. I just get up, I brush my teeth, I eat the same breakfast, I go to work, I eat the same lunch, I come back, we do the same dinner, I then go on the same walk, and then we go to bed, and I do that forever. That would prevent you from becoming that person. Always challenge yourself. Always try to learn new things. We see kids do it all the time, and then we get to a point where we're like, we're good. We don't need anything. We don't need to learn anything. I'm a self-taught guitar player. I've been teaching myself for years. I picked it up my senior year of high school. And I still pretty much only play the same few chords. But since my daughter was born, it's something we've been doing to bond. And for some reason, she tends to enjoy it. She'll sit there in the corner of the couch and just watch and smile. And I'll play and I'll sing and I'll try new songs. And then at these times when her and her mom are upstairs in bed, I'm watching tutorials on YouTube about how to play new songs. So the next day when we come back downstairs, I can play a new song. Side note, she's going to think all of these popular songs were originals because once she's old enough to understand what's going on, I'm going to tell her they're all originals. But it's something we do. And I hope it's something that she remembers and something that she enjoys and something she continues to laugh about. We had a moment a few months ago when she was struggling to go to bed and it was just a nap. I think it was our second nap. And she was struggling a little bit. And I couldn't figure it out. I said, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And we got up, we moved around and changed her diaper again and tried all these things. And eventually I just took her downstairs and I put her on the couch. And I started strumming the guitar. I wrote a song for my wife during COVID, 25 years ago. And I've sung it to her a couple times. But I started playing it for August and I said, hey, this is a song about how your mom and dad met. I wrote this 5 years ago, like she understands all this stuff, and I'm playing this song. And halfway through the song, her eyes closed. She had been up and given me a hard time for 30 minutes, and I start playing this song, and halfway through, her eyes closed, and then I pick her up, took her upstairs. She took her nap. I mean, I would have never thought that if I didn't think about when she was born, challenging myself to learn a new skill so she could look up to it and hopefully be inspired by it. But learn a new skill. You should be spending time with your best friend. It's tough, man. It's tough. My daughter's 7 months old, and my wife and I have been on one date. We went out for Mother's Day. We had our incredible nanny come over and help out and watch August, and we went out for Mother's Day, and we went to a couple of our favorite places, and we're home by 7 o'clock. Or earlier than that, home by 6:30. But just had a blast, laughed. I mean, for the first time in a long time. She had said something, and I was laughing, I couldn't stop. couldn't stop laughing. I was like, what is going on? I even said to her, I said, I don't know why I'm laughing so hard. And she said, it's because you haven't done that in a while. Like we haven't had that time, she and I, where we could just be who we were, not even before we had our daughter. Obviously, that'll never change, but just be who we were as a couple and who we are as a couple. And it was so important. It was such a good reset. And between busy schedules, both of our busy schedules, we're always coming and going. I leave in the morning before she gets up. I come home, grab our daughter. My wife then comes home. We get August ready for bed. They go to bed. I mean, we just pass each other all the time. When we're getting frustrated, when we're getting annoyed, when we're getting short with each other, a lot of it comes back to that. It boils down to the fact that we haven't had time to just relax and laugh and be ourselves. Got to remember to do that. I've realized and I've found out that that's very easy to let go. So keep that in mind. You need to eat like someone who cares about themselves. I'm going to expand a little bit on that shortly, but fathers put so much energy into so many other things. Nutrition is something we tend to put on the back burner. And I say we because I've seen a lot of dads in my time, and you can tell a lot of us don't treat our bodies like we care about it. We need to fuel it that way. And we're going to talk about that shortly. But my last and number 7 thing that I think all fathers should be doing is constantly reminding themselves why they're doing it. Scroll back through those pictures of your babies. Go through the memories and videos on your phone about when they were younger, about time you'll never get back. Look through pictures of your kids with family members. Fortunately, hopefully all of the family members in the picture are still there. But understanding that one day we'll look back on these pictures and some of those individuals weren't there. When you have a decision to make between the easy and the hard, think about why you're deciding to make the hard decision. Before we all had kids, we got to pursue selfish endeavors. And I don't mean selfish as a negative thing. I just mean selfish as self-fulfilling. And we stopped doing that when we had children. So when it comes to the easy and the hard, you've got to remember why you've put yourself in this situation or why you're in this situation in the first place. And then it takes it from 2 decisions to 1 decision. And you know that I have to do this for my family. I have to do this for my baby. I have to, when it comes to compound movements, I don't want them to do it. I don't want to do them today. Well, why did I decide I was going to do this in the first place? Oh yeah, I got it. When I'm going to sprint and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. That's when you think, why did I commit to doing this? Why did I write this in my schedule? Why did I have this in my training program? Why did I pay for this training program for somebody to write for me specifically? And I said, I want to sprint. I want to jump. Where were you in the mindset when you were making those decisions? Remember why you did that in the first place. When it comes to nutrition, when it comes to spending time with your loved one, when it comes to learning new skills. I know I started on this journey for some reason. Maybe it was inspiration. Maybe it was motivation. Maybe it was because you needed a kick in the butt. But why did you do that? Remind yourself that when it gets hard. All right, let's talk a little nutrition here. First things first, eat like somebody who cares about themselves. Everybody knows somebody with a quirky hobby, whether it's collecting Pokemon cards or whether it's collecting coins or collecting cars or playing board games. Everybody knows somebody with a quirky hobby. And think about all the things that they do intentionally that goes into that for them to be able to enjoy that hobby as much as possible. If somebody plays music, so much energy and effort and time goes into that because they ultimately have a goal of creating the best music possible. And there are tons of things they have to do to achieve that. If you have a buddy who is into collecting baseball cards, how many events do they have to go to? How much time do they have to spend online? How many bids do they have to lose out on? How much money do they have to bid? How many websites do they have to go on? How many events how many things do they have to do because they care about the outcome of their baseball collection hobby? You need to eat like somebody who cares about themselves as much as you do your favorite hobby. When it comes down to making a decision between 2 foods, you've got to think about what would somebody who cares about themselves choose in this moment. And you have to make that decision. And it's hard. I get how hard it is. I understand why most people are unhealthy and most people are unfit and most people make the wrong choices. I mean, the instant gratification of the really good tasting thing is a very hard thing to turn down. It takes reps, it takes practice, and it also takes a very focused mindset. I've said it for a long time when it comes to nutrition, but it has a carryover to a lot of different negative vices as well. But I don't think you'll be willing to make a change in your nutrition until you absolutely hate the person looking back at you in the mirror. It sounds a bit aggressive. It sounds a bit over exaggerated. I don't think there is another way to make a massive change in your life unless you absolutely hate who's looking back at you in the mirror. And I said I think it carries over to other places in life. How many stories have you heard just online on social media about dads who were addicted to drugs or alcohol? They had a child and they realized they had to show up as a better father, and they basically looked at themselves in the mirror and said, I don't want to be this person anymore. And they got over the vice that had been holding them down for so long. It takes you absolutely hating that person. And then from there, you have to use that fuel and that energy and that drive to be able to get you through the hard times and the hard decisions. So once you're to that point where you want to make a change, where you say, I am no longer going to be this person I see when I look in the mirror, I'm going to be the person who I'm supposed to become. Where do we start? The number one thing that I've seen change the way people look at food and change the way people respond to healthy eating and change the way they respond to diet, the number one thing is to get them tracking their food. When you start tracking your food, tons of things happen. You actually get to see how many calories and how many macronutrients the food you're eating is made up of. But to me, the biggest thing about when you start tracking your food is that you have to be intentional about what you eat, because you understand that it's no longer a one-step process, it's a two-step process. Not only do I have to eat this food that I already feel bad about eating because I know it's not the best thing I need to be eating, but then I have to weigh it, I have to measure it, I then have to scan it and put it into an app and then save it in an app and look back the next day and see that I did eat that thing. Tracking your food gives you plenty of benefits, but that is the biggest piece of it. It is so easy to sit down and eat a bowl of pretzels, but when you know you have to then take out the scale, you've got to put the bowl on the scale. You've got to recalibrate the weight of the scale. You then have to dump the pretzels into the bowl. You have to see how many are in there. You have to take out your app. You need to scan that barcode. You need to do the math of how many servings of the pretzels you're having. You then have to put all that stuff away, and then you have to go sit on the couch. That is way harder to eat that entire bag of pretzels than it is if you just grab it and you're not tracking it. The number one thing that will benefit you and your diet and your health when it comes to nutrition is start tracking it. From there, you're going to dedicate yourself to doing that for 2 weeks straight, 14 days, everything you put in your mouth. It can be bad. It can be alcohol. It can be drinks. It can be oils and sauces. It can be cookies. It can be anything that you're eating or drinking you need to track. Because after 14 days, you're going to get a good idea of the amount of calories you're consistently eating on a weekly schedule. And then from there, you can figure out what direction you need to go. So if you are overweight and you find yourself after 2 weeks eating a ton of extra calories, carbs are crazy high, fats are crazy high, protein is probably pretty low. Usually how macronutrients end up breaking themselves down when people are just kind of eating intuitively. They're going to be pretty high carb, pretty high fat, pretty low in protein. But from there, you just need to drop those calories 10%. You just take that number, drop it 10%. You track, you keep tracking what you're tracking, keep doing what you're doing. Just keep that number 10% less than that number you were getting every day on average when you were tracking for the first 14 days. Understand there's a lot of context here. I'm just trying to go over this and the idea of this to get you started down the right path as quick as possible. You just take the amount of calories you're eating and you drop that by 10%. When we're talking about manipulating individuals' macronutrients and calories, you don't want to go any more than 10% at a time. 20%, 30%, that's way too big of change. That's not sustainable. It's going to be hard for people to pull off a big jump like that. But we say 3 to 10%, anywhere between there. So assuming you're on that higher end, you could start at 10%, because even if you're eating, let's say 3,000 calories, it's only 300 calories you have to drop it by. So it's not a huge number. And it's very doable, and it's worked over and over and over again in my experience, but that's where you want to start. You'd be able to get away with that for a pretty long time. Every couple of weeks, drop in another 3 to 10%, 3 to 10%, 3 to 10%, until you find something that you can keep up with and find something that you're comfortable with. Again, depending on how big you are, it's going to take much longer time. You have much more weight to lose. But again, let me reiterate that if you go from not tracking your food to tracking your food, you're going to see a massive change. Let's say that's too much. Let's say even tracking your food, say even though I need to make a massive change, I don't want to do it that way. Okay, here's another way. And this way is honestly just as effective, if not more effective, but it's going to be harder to stick to. You have to understand that nutrition is a sprint, not a marathon. So if you spend 12 to 16 weeks super focused on your calories and your macronutrients, you will make such a massive difference and such a massive change in your life that everything past that 12 to 16 weeks will be so much easier for you to maintain that body composition, that body fat, and overall how you look. But you have to dedicate 12 to 16 weeks in an absolute max effort, all out sprint for that to happen. So when people say, oh, I'm going to get started this summer. Oh, I'm going to get started after my 30th birthday. Oh, I'm going to after. This goes back to the first thing we said. They don't hate themselves enough to make a change. So as soon as it gets difficult, as soon as something comes up, they're just going to go back to their default. That's what got them there in the first place. That's what got them at this current weight in the first place, is that they weren't willing to go all in. And that is a huge problem. You can't keep thinking that it's a marathon. You have to think that it's a sprint. You have to think that I have to get to my ideal body weight as fast as possible, understanding parameters, giving yourself, like we said, 12 to 16 weeks. And once you get there, it's so much easier to maintain it. So much easier. So here's what I'm going to do if I'm going to sprint to the best shape of my life. I am going to eat only eggs, meat, that can be chicken, turkey, or beef, vegetables, fruit, and drink only water and coffee. And if you're thinking, how am I supposed to do that? I could never. Well, it's not for you. You're not ready to make that massive change yet. If you're thinking, oh, I already eat eggs for breakfast, well, what could I do for lunch? I could probably do a burger, because that's ground beef. And then you're not ready for that. You don't hate yourself enough. I would suggest people do that if they are ready to make a massive, massive, massive change. Is it going to be difficult? Yes. Is it going to be harder than what it was to get you here to the position you're at now? Yes, it's going to be harder than that. But is the hardness of all of that combined going to pay off for itself in the long run and make it so worth it? Absolutely. Eggs, meat, fruits, vegetables, water, and coffee. It's so easy. It's so easy. And even if you're thinking, oh, but how would I get my, or when is my time for dessert? Or if you're thinking, well, how do I get these certain nutrients? Or, well, I'm going to have some cravings when it's time for dessert. You're not ready yet. You're not ready to make this big of a change in your life. But I'm telling you, if you are ready, if you are one of those people who's committed, if you're one of those people who said, this is the time in my life that I need to change the most, if you look in the mirror and you say, I hate the person looking back at me, this is what you need to do with your nutrition that will absolutely change the outcome of the rest of your life. So you're either going to track your food, you're going to drop 3 to 10% every few weeks. We're looking for 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a week. If you keep that consistent, stay at that same calorie intake. If you start to slow down a little bit, knock off a little bit more. Or you're going to absolutely burn the boats and you're going to eat eggs, meat, fruits, vegetables, and drink water and black coffee. Those are the easiest things you can do. The simplest, I should say. Those are the simplest things you can do. They're not easy, but nothing worth having is going to be easy. And if you want to have a body that you're proud of and an athletic body that is capable and that you're proud to show off at the pool, on vacation, or even under a tight t-shirt at the baseball game, these are the things it's going to take. And what more of an inspiration could you be to your family if you're getting everything in line? You're getting stronger. You're getting more athletic. You're getting fitter. You're getting healthier. Because of all those things, you're sleeping better. You're showing up as a better father. You're showing up as a better husband. You're caring more. You're loving more. You're making more money in your business. We have to make a change. We absolutely have to. And there's no better time than now. My dad, shout out, man, for the week is my buddy Chris. Chris Deeger, played football with him for years. I've actually traveled on more airplanes with him than I have of anybody else in my entire life. I got to spend some time with him this weekend at the Pop 2000s tour out here in Cleveland. They came and played at the House of Blues. It was awesome, but best part of it, man, I just got to kick it with one of my best friends. We sat in the back. We listened to some amazing music, but we got to catch up. And he's just doing such a great job, man. As a father, he and his wife are working together to raise 2 really beautiful kids. Both boys talented, athletic, kind, outgoing. Mom and dad are doing a really nice job. And I know Chris's work ethic from playing professional football and his work ethic since he's became a father, I mean, has just been unbelievable. So to see him doing the things he's doing now in his life, in his business, with his family, It's just so cool to see, man. So he's my dad. Shout out. If you appreciated what we talked about today, let me know. Leave me a comment. Send me a DM. The Athletic Dad on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. Please share this with another dad if you thought it was valuable and you think they can take something from it. I ask 3 things at the end of every podcast, and I'm going to ask those 3 things again before we head out. So please continue to practice gratitude. Tell the people you love that you love them, and live your life stimulated. We'll see you guys on the next one.